Polls.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we thank you for being here, Barnaby.
So picture this. You spent years, maybe decades, building up your mobile home park. It's your asset, your work. But then, when it's time to sell, the offers, well, they feel a bit flat, maybe even insulting. Less like a valuation, more like a quick transactional thing.
Yeah, you've put in the hard yards, but the typical exit, it's often just a big lump sum, which sounds good until the tax bill hits and you're suddenly out of the game, exposed to whatever the market's doing.
Exactly, which is why today we're diving into some really fascinating source material. It tackles this exact problem, selling mobile home parks, but with this unique blend of serious finance and sharp wit.
We're looking at seller carry financing, and the way these sources frame it isn't as some kind of last resort, but actually as a sophisticated, almost dignified way for sellers to exit.
Right, so our mission here is to unpack that for you, cut through the usual jargon, get to the nuts and bolts.
We want you to see why some really savvy operators view this as maybe the best move if you care about control, about legacy, not just grabbing the cash and running.
And what makes these sources stand out is definitely the tone. It's described as something like, Curb Your Enthusiasm meets an NPR finance segment.
Yeah, it's got that dry, almost mock serious feel. It uses this kind of absurd realism to slice through the usual industry fluff.
The stuff they call pro forma magic or napkin math.
Exactly. It aims for transparency, for the seller's peace of mind, which is often missing in those high-pressure sales situations.
Okay, so this unique framing brings us straight to the main topic. Seller carry financing, sometimes called owner financing. What's the actual shift here? What makes it different?
Fundamentally, it's about who plays the role of the bank. In a, let's call it, normal sale, the buyer goes to a bank, gets a loan.
That money lands in the seller's account, minus fees, and then boom, the taxman calls.
Right, big chunk gone immediately. But with seller carry, well, the seller becomes the bank, or at least a bank for part of the deal.
Okay, so how does that work practically?
You, the seller, finance a portion of the purchase price yourself. You hold the promissory note, the IOU, basically, and it's secured by the park itself.
So the collateral is the asset you already know inside out.
Precisely. And the buyer makes their payments directly to you, the seller, month after month, not to some faceless institution.
That's why the sources talk about the seller running your own private bank. You shift roles.
Exactly. You go from actively managing the park to managing a stream of passive income derived from the park. You're earning interest, and crucially, you retain a level of control.
And that control piece seems huge. It's not just dollars and cents, is it? For someone who's owned an MHP for a long time.
Oh, definitely not. Selling isn't just a financial calculation. It taps right into behavioral finance concepts. Things like loss aversion, wanting to protect your legacy.
The fear of just letting go completely, and the tax hit, of course.
Yeah, the immediate tax pain is a big one. Seller carry kind of soothes that psychological barrier. It reframes the whole transaction. It's not a fire sale. It's presented as a more, well, dignified transfer of stewardship.
Yeah.
You're setting the terms.
The sources say something like, selling on your terms without begging a lender for permission. That's pretty potent language.
It is. And think about the risk profile. If worst case, the buyer defaults. Well, you understand the collateral intimately. It's your park.
You're not trying to figure out some complex derivative. You know the asset. You have leverage.
You have leverage, and you have peace of mind that you just don't get when a massive bank holds the debt, you know?
Makes sense. And presumably, this setup has advantages for the buyer, too. It can't be all about the seller.
Absolutely. It's often a win-win. The buyer gets to bypass the often painful process of dealing with traditional lenders.
Which can mean faster closing times, more flexibility, maybe.
Yes, exactly. Less red tape, potentially more flexible terms than a bank would offer. And because they avoid that institutional headache, buyers are often more willing to meet the seller's asking price or get closer to it.
So it becomes less adversarial, more like a partnership.
That's the idea, a collaboration. Seller gets profit, control, legacy. Buyer gets the opportunity, speed, flexibility.
Okay, let's make this real. The sources provide a case study with some numbers. Walk us through the conversational math on that.
Sure. So let's take a hypothetical park sale. Purchase price, $800,000. Simple number to work with.
Okay, $800K.
The buyer comes in with a decent down payment. In the example, it's $150,000.
All right, so that leaves $650,000 that needs financing.
Correct. And that $650,000 is what the seller agrees to carry. They create a note for that amount.
And what are the terms in this example?
The case study uses 6% interest only with a 5-year balloon payment.
Interest only for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what does that generate for the seller each month?
All right, so $650,000 at 6% annual interest. That works out to $39,000 a year in interest. Divide that by 12.
That's $3,250 per month.
Exactly. $3,250 hitting the seller's account every month. Passive income, predictable, and secured by the park.
And the big kicker here is the tax situation, right? You mentioned deferral.
That's a major advantage. You receive that $3,250 monthly, and it's taxed as ordinary income, which is usually manageable. But the capital gains tax on the main $650,000 principal, that's deferred.
Deferred until?
Until the balloon payment is due. At the end of year 5 in this example, that's when the buyer needs to pay back the entire $650,000 principal, likely by refinancing or selling.
Got it. So over those 5 years, the seller collects the interest payments.
Right. $250 a month for 60 months. That's $195,000 in interest income over the 5 years.
Plus they get the original $650,000 back at the end.
Correct. So before taxes, the total return on that note is the $195K interest plus the $650K principal, which is $845,000.
And during those 5 years, they weren't managing the park day to day. No clogged toilets, no permits.
Exactly. They've swapped active management headaches for passive income checks. And when you compare that kind of return secure, predictable, backed by a known asset to, say, putting the money in a CD or even high-grade bonds right now.
It often looks pretty attractive, doesn't it?
It really can, yeah. Especially considering the tax deferral element. You've effectively turned your equity into a high-performing private loan.
Now, seller carry sounds powerful. But the sources mention it's not always the only move in this sort of dignified exit strategy.
That's right. It's often a core piece, but sophisticated sellers might combine it with other tools to really optimize things.
What else comes up?
2 specific strategies get mentioned. The classic 1031 exchange.
Ah, yes. Deferring capital gains by rolling proceeds into a similar investment property.
Exactly. The seller carry note itself can sometimes, depending on the structure, be part of that larger 1031 strategy. It gets complex, but it's possible.
And the other one?
Something called the Woodbridge hybrid method. Sounds fancy.
A bit, yeah. What's the gist?
It seems to be about combining a partial cash out up front with a seller carry note for the rest.
Okay, so you get some immediate cash, maybe for another project or just liquidity.
Right. You get some cash now, but you still keep that predictable tax-deferred interest income stream from the seller note on the remaining balance. It's about balancing immediate needs with long-term income and tax strategy.
So it really emphasizes flexibility, tailoring the exit to the seller's specific situation.
That's the core theme, I think. The sources present deal-making not as this zero-sum battle, but more like a structured conversation aimed at shared success.
Finding alignment.
Precisely. Where the seller's need for a good return and legacy meets the buyer's need for opportunity and maybe less traditional financing, everyone walks away feeling like they got a fair shake, dignity intact.
It allows the seller to focus less on just the absolute top price and more on the terms, the interest rate, the duration, the control. It's a statement of confidence, really.
Confidence in the asset, confidence in the buyer you've chosen, and wanting to be rewarded for that over time, not just in a single taxable event.
So the big takeaway, seller carry isn't some obscure loophole or a way to strong-arm someone.
Not at all. It's positioned as a fundamental tool, a financial bridge, if you will, between the seller's built-up legacy and the buyer's ambition.
Alignment over argument.
Every time.